This is a photograph of my grandmother Colleen on her wedding day in 1964. She had just married a man named Michael Westall, who shared the same religious and family values as her, and the day was filled with excitement, hope, and love. Up until my grandfather's death in 2015, I knew very little about him and who he was, except for some old man my dad would force me to go visit every few weeks. He was an elderly, decrepit man that never left his bed and would often call me by the wrong name. Recently, I was helping Nan clean out her office, and I came across hundreds of relics of this unfamiliar man I called Pa. As I tried to learn who my Pa was, I learned that he was one of 11 children, with 10 boys and 1 girl, and his father, who was high up in the Australian Army, was very hard on Pa and his siblings. Pa was apparently a bit of a ladies' man and was often dating multiple women at once. He didn't go to university and instead enlisted in the army. Dad has told me many stories about my grandfather, including tales of violence, homophobia, and insurance fraud, and even stealing cars. Suddenly, that old man who I had known for so long became less of a stranger to me. However, all of this posed a significant question in my head. What had my grandmother seen in him? Nan was an intelligent, educated, and deeply religious young woman who had been raised on a sheep farm in a small country village called Mullinjandra. She had been in the top 5% of her state in her high school certificate and had travelled to the big city of Sydney to pursue university education. Apparently, Nan was sought after by many men, and as I searched through the photos digging for answers, it was clear she had many men chasing after her. But there was one man who won her heart, Michael Westall.
I met Michael, my husband, and he was charming, good looking, from a Catholic family, which was very important to me at that stage.
They got married on the 2nd of February 1964, and it seemed like the perfect match to everyone around them. On the 23rd of March 1968, Nan gave birth to my dad, Ben.
Your grandfather was out looking at cars, and there wasn't no one in the delivery room or anything with me. And much later that night, your grandfather came.
2 years after my dad's birth, things began to fall apart. As I tried to piece together my grandfather's life, I noticed that there was a significant amount of photos with my grandmother and my dad, but never any including Pa.
I was hurt, bewildered, my family bewildered that this could happen. And I remember my dad saying, I can't understand how a man could do this to my daughter.
When I was about 6, my father used to drive me to a block of units in Bellevue Hill. He'd park the car out the front and he would put a tape player on to leave me some music, and he'd leave me in the car and he'd go inside the unit. Later I found out it was his mistress's house.
I discovered that Nan had found a love letter in Pa's coat pocket from another woman. Suddenly my grandfather was a whole person, not just a strange relative. I thought about how, despite everything, my grandma had visited Pa every week in his nursing home, and how Pa had always been at every family dinner, and how hard Nan had tried to keep the family together, making sure Pa had a relationship with my dad. While I never had much of a relationship with Pa when he was alive, I feel now more than ever before that I know who he was.